Welcome to Michigan Reimagined, presented by T.A. Forsberg and Wagoner Financial. And here's your host, Chris Buck.
So I love to highlight significant regional employers, especially brands you may have heard of but don't really know what they fully do. Well, I'm thrilled today to have the CEO of TechSmith joining us. Welcome, Wendy Hamilton. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Chris. Happy to be here.
So in a nutshell, can you kind of give our listeners who are unfamiliar with TechSmith an understanding of basically what you do?
Sure. TechSmith is a commercial software company. We're known for two main products, Snagit, which is review rated number one globally in screen capture, and Camtasia, which is rated number two based on reviews as a video editor.
Got it. Okay. And when was TechSmith founded?
A long time ago. It seems like ages. 37 years ago in 1987, TechSmith was co-founded by my father.
Got it. Okay. And so your father, how did he get started? I mean, back then, tech must have been a little bit foreign and risky and uncharted territories. What about him made this the right fit for him to do?
Yeah, I think an indicator of that is my dad actually had a sociology degree from University of Michigan. There weren't many computer science degrees back then, but he worked for the state as a statistical programmer, and he had an electrical engineering background from the Army. And he got really interested in PCs back when no one really believed there'd be a PC on every desktop or in every home. So he left the state to follow that as a hobby, began as a service provider, and Snagit was their first product that they actually developed internally to document their services work for customers.
Got it. Okay. And now, as a fast forward, global company, right? You have customers all over?
In every country we're allowed to sell to, we have a customer in. Yep.
Got it. So this is your dad's pet project that has obviously now flourished into something significant. You haven't been at the helm for a terribly long period of time. What was your path?
I was never heir apparent to TechSmith or anything like that. There's nobody more surprised that I'm there than me, I think. I moved from Philadelphia about 7 years to Michigan to take over. I had a career of my own that I liked. I ran a global business, which is a subsidiary of a large public company that was actually bigger than TechSmith, and I became a little disillusioned working for a large public company. And at the same time, my dad wanted to, step out of the business day to day. And in the end, it was kind of a values match more than anything. I did have a technical background too, but it was never planned. And it's exciting to be here.
And I found that it's not so much the industry that you're in. You said, it was I forget the word you just used, but it was a values match, I think is what you said.
Yeah.
Where it's, especially if it's established, right? If the company's built, it's like what your company does obviously has importance, and you need people in the roles to make sure that it remains relevant and everything. But if you're going to lead a team of folks, that core value stuff, right? What do you believe in? What are you trying to accomplish? Corporate culture, employee retention, and all that kind of stuff is more important than being, a nerd about what the product exactly is.
Yeah. Absolutely, especially as a founder entrepreneur, which I'm not, but my father was. You can think about how scary it is to let a business go into another leader. And values are the most important piece there. Right.
Was there a time frame? You said 37 years. When did it scale? Like when did it, was there a thing that made it, like a certain year, a circumstance that kind of blew it up? Yeah. Or was it just kind of a steady growth and all of a sudden here we are?
Yeah, TechSmith growth followed the growth of the use of PCs. So technically the growth of Microsoft Windows. So Microsoft Windows became widespread, maybe late 1990s, early 2000s. Our growth followed that as well, quite naturally.
So how many employees does TechSmith have now?
We have maybe around 270 full-time employees. We also maintain about 20 to 30 part-time college interns.
Fantastic. Okay, so kind of try it before you buy it. Does that work into future employees where you get to see them in action, they get to see the company in action, and then...
Yeah, it's been essential to us. We could not grow without the talent here. There isn't just surplus talent here in Michigan for hard-scale computer programming. So we've been mostly successful working really closely with universities, and starting very young and recruiting, training, and almost all our hires are build from within, promote from within.
Perfect. Okay. And share with us a little bit about the space you occupy, or where you used to be and where you are now, and how did that evolution occur?
Okay, well, it started out you mean physical space?
Physical, yeah.
For a second, I thought you meant industry or value proposition.
No.
Yeah.
Buildings.
For 35 years of that 37 years, we never were in a building that was built for us, for our values, for how we do software development or anything like that. And for at least a decade, we had been spread out through several different buildings because there weren't even a lot of buildings in the area that fit us. So we'd always dreamed about having that, but it's very difficult as a cash flow tech company to make their own investment in something like that. We were very fortunate at the time we were getting more confident to do something in real estate, that the MSU Research Foundation had made a decision to redevelop that 180 acres there as an innovation park. So they actually, it was a public-private partnership that worked out really well, I think, economically for both of us. They funded the building of our brand new modern tech company, here in East Lansing, and we're on the MSU campus, which works out great for us as our recruiting brand to go and get those interns and do those hires.
Well, I think, not only proximity to the people you want to hire, but there's kind of a positive stigma for how innovative tech companies' headquarters and workspaces are, right? I mean, I think, Google and you hear about a lot of these companies and how innovative they are 20 years ago. So I think I know what your old campus kind of looked like and how it was just kind of piecemeal. You had different divisions and different buildings in the same compound, but you had to literally go outside to go between your teams, I think, if I'm not mistaken, into this beautiful facility. And that, in my opinion, is really what Mid-Michigan needed, right? I mean, it really kind of put your stamp as a major brand, a major employer in this tech space in a beautiful facility. So how hands-on were you in the design of the building? I believe it's a LEED certified building, if I'm not mistaken. It seemed like a lot of that was very intentional. Talk a little bit about that path.
We're LEED silver. To be honest, we were going for LEED's gold, but it didn't quite work out. And we were very intentional about how we worked. And by the way, we started that construction before the pandemic and did change some things during the pandemic when we realized we'd end up being much more remote and had to be even more intentional about why and how we would use the office. And our architects were the same ones who did Google and Ann Arbor.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
okay.
So we really were, going with the tech theme and what we needed for tech. And we give people tours all the time. So if anyone's looking to solve the problems of, say, collaboration or hybrid work in today's age, we're happy to show the office out. Yeah.
Well, that's a generous offer, and I've taken them up on it. And if you're listening, and I know you are, you need to do it because it's a fabulous facility. I'm going to pause and take a nod to one of our sponsors. When it comes to managing your finances and planning for your future, I suggest you contact my friends at Wagoner Financial. Whether you're just getting started, getting ready to retire, or anywhere in between, Wagoner Financial can help you make smart financial decisions. Don't navigate complex problems on your own. Wagoner has the expertise to help you feel confident that you're making the right financial choices. Contact an advisor by calling 517-853-3367 or visit their website at wagoner-financial.com. So are you officially a tenant in that building? Does the Michigan State University Foundation own the building, or how does that kind of ownership work?
That's exactly right. They own the building. They paid for the building itself. We finished the building, and we signed a very long-term lease as part of that deal.
And you mentioned all the acreage. If I'm not mistaken, I think they have plans to give you neighbors, right? The idea is that kind of area will become some sort of a tech hub that maybe even include other amenities. I've
seen a few visions as part of it. I hope they do that. We would welcome neighbors, and more infrastructure there.
Right on. Well, I've been following you and TechSmith on LinkedIn, just companies that I'm impressed by and inspired by, and it's always been fun. And I've noticed that you've really taken a stance, and a great one, and really intriguing stance on return to office. And as a CEO, watching other CEOs make decisions on whether they're forcing employees back into the office or how many days a week and those kinds of things. And you share their press releases or articles announcing what they're doing, and then say, this person's doing it right, this person's not doing it right. In your opinion, again, there's no right or wrong, but everyone's navigating that. Why have you kind of adopted that voice? What made that important to you to really ponder this? Clearly, you're trying to navigate how you want to manage your workforce.
Sure. Well, I fell into it a bit. I started posting for the same reason any CEO would start posting, is to advertise our products and their importance in, remote work. And what I found is there was a lot of demand to debate office policy post-pandemic. Why do people need to come back if they've been successfully, full remote for 3 years or 4 years? And my angle isn't that I know the right answer. Like, there is no one right amount of in-person time for any given function, but that the way these initiatives have gone about have really ended up reducing trust and increasing frustration with the employee base. So I've really much focused on the values around RTO and how those are done. And I found there's a lot of demand for that discussion. People like me are just trying to feel good about themselves at the end of the day after they've tried to balance what their shareholders want, or their stakeholders want, or their employees want, or their customers want, right?
Right.
What is the right thing to do? And before I knew it, I had like 10,000 followers on LinkedIn. I didn't plan for that, but now I have an audience, so I have to keep posting.
Right. Well, I think it's really productive. Because again, nobody's right, nobody's wrong, right? So we're only giving our opinions as to, style points on this weren't that great, or this person seems to have a good head on their shoulders and are doing it the right way. And so I welcome the discussion, and every now and then I chime in, but otherwise I like to read some of the comments and all of that kind of stuff. Do you get any feedback from your employees? Like, are they do many of your employees kind of follow that conversation or show you, or do they just live it the way you write it for them, literally, as to what your expectations of them are? And do you feel like they appreciate your style of RTO and their work habits?
I think they do. They're certainly very curious about what I post and what it might mean for them long term. Actually, what employees have started to do is forward me articles that they've read that they think I should comment on, that upset them, or something like that. So they've been really helpful in my journey to post on LinkedIn. That's great.
And there's a lot of conversation about talent shortages, and some of it is just the math of deaths and births and population rates. And then Michigan's got its own thing about trying to grow its population and talent base. But there are a lot of people out there struggling to get enough people to actually do the job. How does TechSmith seem to fare on having the tools and the human resources, literally, that you need to do the work you need to get done? Are you finding the talent you need?
Yeah, at the end of the day, we find the talent we need. But again, that's partly because we are an entry-level recruiter with great 20-year relationships with universities. There are specialized roles, particularly now in tech, if you're looking for a particular skill. Yeah, you're never going to hire them in person, and whatever state they're in, you're going to want to hire them from, because they're that hard to find. But I will say that that's an exception. It's 5% of our hires maybe that we really struggle with that.
Well, that's great. And I'll tell you, and I will tell any company that's willing to listen, how you carry yourself and your brand and the way the CEO projects themselves and how the employees talk about their workspace when they're not at work to their friends and family, and anyone that's willing to listen, in my opinion, is the best strategy to drive employee retention and employment, right? Is reputation and brand, pride, and so I think you're doing it right. As just an observer, I'm appreciative that you're here and doing the great work. So I'm glad to hear that you're not dying for people.
Yeah, thank you.
To get the work done. So is there anything else about TechSmith or any direction you're headed or anything else that we haven't covered in our conversation here today?
Our direction. Well, our vision is that all information and knowledge, flows into video. We think video is an amazing way to share knowledge. What we're really focused on right now is how AI will make that easier for our customers. We have some big launches this year to do more things with AI to make it even easier to create video. So we're really excited by that.
That's awesome. Well, then that's a great teaser. So maybe that'll give you a return trip when you launch some of these things. We'll have you back on the show and you can talk or bring one of your teammates to explain what the new endeavors are. So fantastic. How can people get in touch with TechSmith or follow along? Websites, social media, any of that stuff?
Sure. Our website is www.techsmith.com. We also have a podcast called The Visual Lounge. If you are in video editing, we cover all aspects of workflow of creating video on that podcast.
Fabulous. Well, we've been talking with the CEO of TechSmith right here in mid-Michigan, Wendy Hamilton. Thanks so much for being a part of the show today, Wendy.
Thank you.